Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Welcome to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. I'm your host, Sheila Slick, and today I have a special guest.
Hi, I'm Brent Lindstrom, Like-Minded Arts.
After decades as a general contractor, Brent put together a 10-year plan that helped him reposition himself into the uncertain artistic world of becoming an independent writer and filmmaker. With a strong background in finance, he was able to use those 10 years to go from earning $45,000 a year to learning how to become a master storyteller and become financially stable to focus entirely on his writing and filmmaking career. Tell me about that pivotal moment that led you to realize that you wanted to trade blueprints for storyboards, Brent.
All right, so I don't know if this is how other people's stories go, but when I was younger, I wanted to make movies, but my dreams were kind of squashed because I was told that that is not something that our family does. We don't have those kind of connections. As I got older and I was in the construction field, I felt like I wasn't making enough money for my family, so I wanted a side job. My side job took me to writing because I wanted to stay at home and be with the family rather than going looking outside the home for extra work, because already I was working probably 50 to 60 hours a week outside the home in my construction job, and my wife was starting to miss me. So I wanted to do something I could be close to her with. And writing felt like, hey, this is the place to go because self-publishing is becoming a thing, and why not give it a try? I could maybe make some extra money. It didn't work out quite as I had planned, so I kept at it, but the more I did it, the more I realized that I really still love this storytelling gig. I got really addicted to it, and I want to do this full time in the future. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to find a way to leave the construction field and move into storytelling. And that's kind of where it all started.
Well, I share your passion for storytelling. When I began this very same podcast, it was to share other people's stories because hearing other people's stories have actually led me to take action and perhaps take a new direction at one point in my life. So I can't wait to hear about how you build stories. So, what were some of the lessons learned for anyone out there that's listening that perhaps is stuck in a $45,000 a year job where they don't feel that they are at their potential or they want something more? What would you tell them?
So when I was there, I had also just gotten out of college. I actually went to school, got a finance degree and my MBA, and and the artistic side to the side, just if you're trying to get out of a job or improve your situation from a job that maybe you don't feel like you're making enough money in, I think that learning a good financial backing is important. So for me, I had the book knowledge and things from school, but I still needed to find a practical way to elevate my income. The self-book publishing at that time was not making me any money at all. In fact, it was costing me money because I still had to hire editors. I had to hire book cover designers. It still took time and effort to do these things. And then there was the marketing on top of that. And those first few books weren't all that good because your first few books, you're still learning the craft. But I think for anybody who wants to improve their situation, it's important to understand money, to understand finance. Because I was making, like I said, 45,000 a year, but I had this goal. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 25. It, and at $45,000 a year, that's not going to happen. There's just, especially if you're married, you're starting a family, there's just too many expenses that come in there. And so learning about money, learning about how to make more of it, learning how to invest it, and still on top of that, saving it so that you can invest it and do that practically because and there's really no get rich quick scheme out there that if you're thinking there is, it's probably a lie and it's probably going to rob you somehow. So just getting that financial backing, I think, is incredibly important, and that's one of the things that I try to help my personal audience with is because I've had people come and ask me for mentorship things. You know, they're like, "Hey, how did you make it work for you? Can we learn a little bit from you so we can do this on our end also?" And so that's when I started my YouTube and podcast things just to help people along that journey also.
You kind of just blew my mind when you used the words finance and MBA to storytelling and creative because in my mind, right, like you're either a numbers person or a creative writer. So that's a very fascinating intersection. Have any of your books been about finance?
Um, no, not necessarily. I mean, most of my books, I do keep a realistic approach as to how money works in there. So I've got one book that I've just finished, which is going to be coming out in the spring. It's part of a new series, kind of a fantasy noir, but in that one, the whole money system is completely different. So while it doesn't follow the standard financial things of our day. It follows kind of a fantasy version of that, but I still like to keep in mind the rules of money, how money works. So you get this realistic feel that this world is actually lived in. So yeah, the money, the financial end of it, I haven't written any books that just deal specifically with finance because I mean I'm a fiction writer, but money is part of our everyday lives. It's hard to completely separate that out. So as long as you're not being too unrealistic about how money works in your books, I think it's, you know, I guess it helps to know how it works, but it's not terribly important for the story itself.
So you're a fiction writer. So
Mhm.
that's why perhaps you're not writing Finance 101 how-to books, right? In the nonfiction world. So what are the key elements in a fiction novel? I've never written one, but if I wanted to write one, what does that story line or that blueprint look like?
Oh boy, so it really depends because story, especially fiction stories, fall into different categories. They call them genres, and every genre has its own format. And so a mystery would have a certain format, certain beats that you should really be hitting, while a sci fi novel would have a completely different set of beats that you're trying to hit. And so most of these you can probably categorize into a type of a three-act structure, and you can learn about that. There's so many references to what a three-act structure is and how to follow that, but the actual beats that go into this are different from genre to genre. There's a book out there called The Hero's Journey. That's that focuses on one particular genre of fiction, and you can see that kind of a story in probably 75 to 80% of movies out there. It's kind of this guy going on a journey or this girl going on a journey. They don't want to do it at first, but then they make a resolution to go out and do it. Then they have kind of this middle section where it's fun and games, kind of like and they meet obstacle after obstacle till eventually get to this dark night of the soul, and then they get this climax resolved. But but that's one type of story in the fiction realm. Whereas if you go to maybe say a sci-fi novel, you're trying to tell a story that is explaining more like a state of being, like a government society. Like this is imagining what our world would be like, and so it's a lot more imaginative. It's a lot more of a social statement, as it were. And so, yeah, it depends on the genre, but it's helpful to study genre if you're gonna be moving into that kind of a fiction, basically. I mean, romance is going to be completely different from both of those. So
So the first step is to define the genre and then find the structure within it. So the hero's journey, I think that's what Disney builds a lot of their stories in. And I've also heard that concept in marketing, right? Where you're putting the character through a series of actual steps. So at the end, the audience, right, can connect with them and say, I've been in that position and something has to happen to create that tension so that at the end they rise up like the hero.
exactly, because we're all on a journey, and it's really easy for people to relate to a journey styled story. They can put themselves in that situation. And so that's why that is one of the most popular styles of genre out there. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's great for origin stories if you're telling a memoir story, how you built this business or whatever. The hero's journey is a really good template for that because you can start out with, yes, I was a poor guy making $45,000 a year, living in a ghetto and trying to raise a family. And then I fell in love with books. So then I made my books I mean, you can kind of see this as my story, and then and so I worked really hard for 10 years to try to get my books, my skill in writing books good and try to get myself in a financial position. And then finally I made the leap and now I have this career kind of a thing. So yeah, the hero's journey is really great for fiction and nonfiction also, yeah.
Well, you're inspiring me right now because with the podcast, I actually built an AI tool, which I'd love to hear your take on AI, where I'm able to turn these conversations into a book because I think, it's the same message, but it's getting rewritten and preserved or shared in different formats. And so I think there's a lot of disruption right now with the AI. I'm okay if you're like, oh, no, I'm totally against AI. But I also think, at what point does someone understand that technology is only going to continue evolving, right? And we have all this AI out there. I don't even know, like, if a video was created just by AI, like, I'm doubting myself every time I'm seeing the content. Because I'm seeing a lot of things that'll shock you, right? That shock and awe to keep you watching so that they can make money on the clicks. So, what's your take on AI in today's day and age?
So I've been up and down on AI a lot. I think it's that way for a lot of people. The thing about AI and really any technology is when it first comes out, it's a little disruptive. And this is true for everything. We went from film to digital, and that got a lot of people worried, and there were diehards, oh, we got to stick with film. We can't sell out and go to digital. And then you've got all these really amazing tools that help you create amazing visual effects in movies before the AI came around, and now we've got AI, and it just opens the field so much more. So people like me, I'm pretty much a one-man show. I write my own stories, I film my own stories, and I probably have 20 different AI subscriptions. And as I go through them, I look at the places where they add value and I look at the places where they don't really add value. And it takes a little bit of experimentation, but the more you get into this AI thing, the more you realize that AI is not the end all be all. It's another tool that we have to help tell our own stories. And the thing about AI is if you rely completely on AI to tell your story, the story's going to be garbage. What you need to do is you need to have your story. You need to have the vision, the creative dream, and then use the AI to augment that or to help you improve that. So for me, I might use the AI maybe not so much to write my book, but I'll use it to help edit it. Where yours is taking and now make sure I got this right. Yours is to take a series of podcasts or interviews and turn those into a book. Is that right?
Correct. So it'll remove the ums, and ups, all these awkward
Yeah.
moments, and then it will analyze it and rewrite it as a narrative. So it's telling it like a story, and it'll quote you on certain aspects of it. But if you want to hear the full conversation, then you can listen to the episode.
Yeah, and I've listened to a couple of your episodes and kind of gotten an idea for that, and I think that's an incredible use of AI because if you look at it, who's actually telling the story? Is it the AI or is it you? It's you, right?
It's us. Right now,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
you.
your story.
It's whoever is being interviewed is that interview is being translated into a book format, and so it's still your story. The AI is just a tool to help you turn it into something that something more physical, something that's not just some interview. So yeah, that's the thing about AI, in my opinion. Is AI going to stay? Yes, it's going to stay. Is it going to help us? Yes, it's going to tear down barriers. It's going to create a lot of, they call it AI slop out there, which is just people thinking that they can go on, and I've created some of this myself, where you just use AI, you make a quick video or you make a quick document or something, and you say, all right, turning it all over to AI. And it's so obvious, so transparent. But where AI helps is if you can tell a story and you can't tell that it was done by AI, this is the same thing with any visual or special effects in the movies. If you're watching it and you can't see it in there, you know it was done right because almost every movie out there has a lot of VFX in it. And most of it, you can't really tell what they did to it to make it that way. And AI is the same way. If you can use the AI as that tool, it will make your process a lot easier. And using it in the right ways, it's just going to help you tell a better story. So I don't look at AI as terribly threatening, except in the instance that um, it does create more content out there, which makes it harder for creatives to get noticed because there's just so much more to choose from, and it will pull eyeballs away from you. So that's something that's been happening for years and years. The advent of self-publishing did that. The advent of digital media has done that. It's just one of those things that you deal with, and you have to learn how to market yourself appropriately and tell the best story that you can.
I love it. So I had learned a term when I was in college. It was called suspension of disbelief. And if I'm watching a movie and I lose that, then I no longer enjoy the movie. And so with AI, I feel that way. If it's used in a creative, good quality way, then it's not making me lose that. And I'm still interested or even fascinated by the output. So, speaking of fascination, your background is mesmerizing. And I don't normally share video, but if I could describe it, I'm seeing an explosion of color creativity. You have yellows, which is bright and hope, and you have blues and turquoise, and you've got film reels and swirls. Do you do that kind of artwork?
So what you're seeing behind me is a backdrop that I had custom made using AI, and then I had it printed out on a backdrop for me, and I use this for a lot of my YouTube content. But I just I just really enjoy that fun, bubbly feeling. My focus when I'm making stories, my company is called Light Minded Arts, and I want to create clean, uplifting fiction. And it's not preachy. It's not anything that, you're going to watch and be like, oh, brother, he's telling me that I need to be like, it's not anything like that. I just want to create fun content for people who maybe their value set is maybe a little bit different. I personally don't like watching a lot of rated R type content. And so I like keeping the sexual content out of things. I like keeping the profanity out of my stories and just having a clean, happy, bubbly vibe around me is something that I value.
Well, you definitely have that vibe. Just staring at it, I wanna focus on you, but you've got this beautiful background. I'm like, "Gosh, if I could have artwork that looks that beautiful."
Yeah, maybe it's
And
a little too distracting. Maybe I need to tone it down a little then.
no, 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 take it as a compliment, not as, distracting. If anything, I'm like, "Gosh, that would make, like, a beautiful book cover." I wonder if he makes book covers because that's the one part of the whole book publishing that, it's different to speak or to read and write where you have your fortes to now have to switch your hat and focus on the visual aspect of that book cover, which is very, very important. So I want to hear more about your business, and it doesn't sound like you're going to answer yes, but I'm assuming that at one point in this journey, when you transitioned, there was a moment where you thought, I might have made a huge mistake. And if the answer is yes, which one mistake comes to the top of your head?
Okay, so I will admit that there's been multiple mistakes along my journey, and I felt like it's the journey that I'm going to be taking. So I'm not really saying that I feel like this was the wrong thing to do. But along the way, there has been moments where I've questioned it, and mostly if I couldn't make the kind of financial foundation that I wanted to make the creative side possible, then that would have been a clear red flag to me that I'm not ready to jump into this because those first few years while you're moving into the creative field is not easy when everybody's stealing the attention from all sorts of areas. It's really hard to get noticed and you may not be profitable for those first few years. So I needed my financial backing to be solid first. And then but yeah, there were mistakes that I made along the way, and some of them were in my investing. So I learned to invest in real estate, the stock market, futures, options, angel investing. I just learned all of that and saved every penny I could to put into that. And there were times where I would have an investment and it would completely blow up on me because I was learning how to do it and I did it wrong and and then it's like, wow, all my money's gone. What am I going to do now? And then there were other times where I started a business with family and friends. And I thought at that point, I had the business stuff figured out by now. And the business went poof. And I lost a lot of money in that venture. And so there's been times where things have happened like that. But I'd say, even that one cost me about $500,000 at the time. And that wasn't probably my worst failure. My biggest one was probably only a $3,000 failure. And it was an essential thing that I need to go through, but it was an interesting story. So I felt that I had learned as much on storytelling, especially the filmmaking aspect, as I could without actually putting things into practice because I've been reading lots of books, been putting myself basically through my own version of film school. And so I thought, time to make a short film and try out some of the techniques I've been learning. So without telling my wife, I went and bought a camera and a microphone. And I spent about $3,000 on this. And we were living very frugally. She was doing all that she could to support me. And I felt so incredibly guilty. I had imposter syndrome. I had, is this really necessary? Can I make this really work? And why didn't I ask my wife for permission to do this? And, maybe for some people, $3,000 isn't that much. Compared to the $500,000 I had not that I had lost on that other venture, it's like, what's the big deal? But I have such a good relationship with my wife that it almost felt like I was keeping a dirty secret from her. And I felt so guilty for weeks, and finally I confessed to her. It was really no big deal to her. But at the time, that was probably my biggest fail, my biggest thing that weighed on my conscience about this whole venture.
So open communication is how you moved forward.
Yeah, it was. And after that, I haven't had to look back. She's always been so supportive of me, but yeah, part of going into a creative field or anything that affects you, especially your financial footing, is going to affect your whole family. And when you're married, you have a partnership, and it's important to keep everything together to, yeah, have that open communication. Because really, if it weren't for my wife, I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing today.
Hmm, that's beautiful. So let's talk about your business, what you're doing today. Tell me about your movies, your books.
All right. So today This has been the year of transition. So I stepped away from my construction job. I still go in maybe once or twice a week, um but for the most part, I focus mostly on writing my books and creating some content to help mentor other people along the way. But I spent a lot of time writing my book. I've also had two surgeries this year, so I've been bedridden a lot. So it's been a great time to focus on writing. And so I spend a lot of time doing that, and I've also picked up a property near where I live where I am building a film studio. And that one's going through the permitting process right now at the cities. And when that's done, I'm going to have about a 9,500 square foot film studio. It's going to be there mostly for my content, but it's also going to be there for other creatives when I'm not using it. And it's going to have state of the art things. It's going to have AI integrations. It's going to have a lot of things that help filmmakers, people who want to make commercials. It's going to help people who just want to do podcasting or YouTube things. So it's going to have a lot going on in there, and I'm really looking forward to that leap because I've got a lot of stories, not just books, but screenplays that I've been writing that I can start filming once that gets going. But until then, I'm writing my books and I'm publishing those. And I've got one that just came out this year called One for the Money, Two for the Soul. And I've got another one called Hard Boiled Cabbage, which is a fantasy noir mystery type thing, which is coming out in March. And so, yeah, it's a fun creative journey, and it's what I've always wanted to do.
And you married the two. Right now that you just said this studio, you're putting those construction skills and you're turning your passion and you're combining the two. And it just sounds like a state of the art because you're going to integrate all of these technologies. And it also sounds almost like an incubator, someone that wants to, explore how to get into this creator economy or
Yeah, because I mean, we've got two colleges that are within half an hour of where I live, and both of them have a film school in them. And so I look forward to bringing in creatives from there. I really want to be able to provide some low cost, even free services to some of them for their school projects while they're working on that. And I'm even incorporating some of the real estate investing knowledge that I have to fund the thing. So my property that I'm building the studio on is not just going to have my studio, it's going to have other commercial buildings on it. And the income from those is going to basically fund the studio so that if my studio doesn't actually make money, I can still I can still keep the studio.
so. Does the studio have a name?
It's going to be the studio at Light Minded Arts.
Absolutely love that. And will it be kind of like a co-working space, which has been a pretty popular model? Just
It'll have
thinking out loud, because if it's creatives, they may not want a full-time office, but if they can rent out that space on a monthly basis or, certain rooms, I'm sure you're going to have a podcast room and a film room and so forth.
Yeah, and right now it's a little bit fluid. I'm going to probably change things as they go, but the idea right now is that there will be some co-working space in there with computers set up already that have all of the film editing tools on there that somebody would need, so they don't have to go out and get an Adobe subscription or anything like that. It'll have AI tools that they can use and access there, but it'll also have the integration so they can create a world there, cast it up onto a giant 36-foot long LED backdrop screen, and they can go film themselves in whatever place in the world they basically want or out of this world. And there'll be other ones with, the white backdrops, the green screens, whatever we need there. But yeah, it'll be open for people like that. And I also want to have it be almost a social hub where if a creative or maybe someone making a commercial or film comes and they say, I want to make this film here. Do you know any gaffers? Do you know any grips? Anybody who can help me make this? And I can pull up a list and say, here's some of the people who come here often who would love to work on your project and can, maybe I don't charge them to come do certain things and they don't charge them to do things. Kind of just a big network of people who want to work together to help each other's dreams come true. And when you're first starting out, it's so hard to make a dime that your budgets get really out of control if you're not careful. And so having a place where they can develop some of that experience and knowledge at a low risk environment is it's a dream of mine. I mean, I've used free help before, and getting other people to help with other creative projects. It's just something that you have the like in the construction field, you get two concrete contractors, right? And one of them comes and looks at one's job and says, "I hate that concrete job. I can't believe you hired that guy." The other guy says, "Why did you ever hire that guy? Look how bad his concrete." They're always fighting each other and competing against others. But in the creative world, it's so symbiotic. Everybody in the creative world seems to want to be helping each other. Yes, maybe my book is competing with your book for eyeballs, but there's this weird dichotomy where as creatives, if you mention that you're an artist or writer or anything, it seems like everybody wants to help each other. And that's a really fun aspect of the artistic community.
So, my last question is, imagine your life is a film, and I'm inspired by all the film behind you and the studio talk. And you can take a second if you don't have it at the top of your head. But what would be the title for this chapter of your life?
I think this chapter would be titled Retelling. Maybe not retelling, retailing, if that makes sense. Play on words. So like I said, how I'm building that studio, but with other retail sites located there to help support it. I am in the middle of building retail units to support my actual film studio. So I'd call it retailing.
Well, I love it, and I love your story of transformation. It's almost its own hero's journey.
It's a really fun journey, and there's not a boring day right now.
Well, this interview hasn't been boring, and neither has the artwork behind you nor all your future plans. So, congratulations on all of these milestones that you're reaching. I have really enjoyed our conversation. I will leave all of the links in the description. It sounds like you have a lot of books and a lot of films, so I'm hoping you have a website I can send them to where they can check out all the different work.
Yeah. So if you want to visit me, so there's a couple things. You can visit my YouTube channel. It's just Light Minded Arts. You'll find it there. That's kind of where I'm more of helping mentor people in the creative industry. But if you want to come visit my website and learn more about my stories, my books, different things like that, it is www.lightmindedarts.com. And if you go there, there's a contact page where you can fill out and mention your podcast here, and I will actually email you a free copy of my latest novel, One for the Money, Two for the Soul.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. Until next time.